Hi, Radhika. Welcome to our show. Uh, we wanted to catch up with you as New Year is around the corner. So we wanted to connect with you to kind of review with you what happened last year, that is 2021, how the year went by, and also what are your expectations from next year, what trends you potentially see playing out next year. But to begin with, if you can, tell us about what was last year like in terms of trends for the mutual fund industry, if you can start with that.
Sure. So I think firstly, from a markets point of view, it was a very up and down year. I remember the year started with the excitement about the vaccine. And I think, of course, one of the highlights of the year is India's effort and achievement on the vaccination front. Because recall when we started the year, the whole vaccine, optimism had just rolled out. And, now we are at the numbers that we are at. Then we, of course, had the very deadly wave 2 of COVID. And then we've had this great year for markets that has been 2021. So one, I think it's been a year that's been very hard to predict. And I would add a fourth one, a great year for IPO listings. Never seen a year like this. So I think from a markets highlight, these were sort of a few things that we keep in mind. I think from a mutual fund industry point of view, a few things. Firstly, a very good year for equity flows. I think when we end the numbers, this will end up being one of the better years for equity flows. It's been broad-based. Of course, there have been big blockbuster NFOs, but I think even if you weren't participating and we were one of the MCs who were not part of the big NFO story, I think the recurring money that you were getting into funds that are performing has been great. There has been a recognition of new and interesting fund categories. Balanced advantage funds, I don't think I've ever seen them get the kind of coverage that they did. Passive funds, especially on the fixed income side, never seen them get the kind of coverage. Global investment themes. So I think a lot of openness to new investment ideas that came in. And I think the third as an industry highlight is the might of the retail investor continues to be stronger. 11,000 crore SIP book to end the year. And I think 1.5 years ago, when the market downturn had started, there were a lot of skeptics about SIP cancellation and whether this will last, and it went to 7 and 8,000. They were ending the year at 11,000. So don't underestimate the power of the small guy.
Right. And also, there were a lot of regulatory changes that happened in 2021. The new riskometer became effective from January this year. SEBI later, even tightened it. And also, skin in the game was another regulation for mutual fund employees. So regulatory wise, what's your sense? Is it becoming a bit more tighter regulatory regime for mutual funds? How do you look at the regulations that are coming up?
Relative. I think mutual funds have always been, I think, the most tightly regulated industry in India. And I think most of us carry that with a dose of pride, because that has also let it sort of emerge to where it is and win the trust of the common man. Ultimately, any regulation, and I believe a lot of the regulation, I can speak to specifics, that is good for the investor is good for the industry. And I think one thing that people will say about mutual funds is they are not only accessible and there's not only variety, but they are very transparent. Now, when it comes to things like riskometer, the new risk management guidelines also, which not many investors may watch but are very extensive. The classification of fixed income schemes into that 3x3 grid. A lot of this is to build investor awareness so that we become better buyers of schemes. So when we are buying a scheme, we truly understand risk. We truly understand risk in fixed income, that there is duration risk, that there is credit risk. All this is very good. My only caveat is we as an industry have to keep making sure people read it. It's one great initiative to put out disclaimers and all this stuff and riskometers. We have to push that people read it. And, as a media ecosystem and everybody around, or third-party service providers, I think we also have to make sure that people look beyond returns and start capturing these things. That's when I think SEBI's effort will become truly powerful. But yes, we go from a regulated industry to a better regulated industry year on year, not just this year. And I think it's only to carry us further.
Right. Also, the last year, like you pointed out, was a phenomenal year in terms of equity returns. So no complaints there for investors. But at the same time, what are your takeaways for investors? What would you tell investors to keep in mind as some of the lessons from 2021, and something that they can, also keep in mind for next year, given we don't know how markets will shape up now? We have Omicron worries and all, those concerns are out there. So what's your sort of investing tips, if it were, for the investors?
I'll tell you a small incident. Markets have corrected in the last few weeks and months, and we just received an investor query on our social media handle, getting very, very agitated about FII flows and correction, and I should move back to FD, and we're getting a few of those messages right now. And this is, well, 2021 has been a golden year. I think this is the thing that we have to worry about, right? I think the number one message to investors who came in, especially the children of a bull market of 20 and 21, is that every year is not 2021. What you're seeing now, a 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% equity correction is absolutely par for the course. And I think that is the number one message. And if you can't accept that, then you're not ready to be an equity investor. So that's message one. Every year is not like 2021. You will lose money. And how you manage yourself in that cycle, I think ultimately determines the returns you make. If you're the one who panics now and pulls out, you don't stay around on the equity return. So you have to experience equities at the worst to also enjoy them at the best. I think that's the message. The second thing is there has been a lot of stuff that's happened this year in terms of launches, ideas, IPOs, etc. You have to have a sense of balance about what is right for you as an investor and control your urge to copy and FOMO. X is applying in this IPO, so let me go do it. X is buying this NFO, so let me go do it. Not every investment opportunity is appropriate for you. You have to have a very strong bearing that this is my asset allocation, this is what works for me, and stick to that. Most times when investors stick to that, they feel reasonably okay. But when they skew that, and that skew often happens in the bull market, it becomes very painful. And the third is, I think, going into 2022, if you are a fresh equity investor, you have to have some extension of time horizons. I mean, ultimately, it's boring to say, but it's a 5 to 7 year game. And there will be intermittent periods of volatility. It could be caused by Omicron, it could be caused by inflation, it could be caused by the Fed, or it could be caused by something fourth that we don't understand.
Right.
But this is not March 2020 valuations. I think you have to have longer time horizons.
Right. And also, you passingly mentioned about products. So do you see any particular category of products that will continue in 2022? I mean, we saw so many NFOs. So any product trends you see? Also, do you feel that any new investment strategies that investors can adopt in the coming year? Of course, it will depend upon how also markets play out. It's a function of that. But any thoughts on this?
I actually think we spend a lot of time on exotics. In fact, one of my sort of worries coming out of 2020 is there has been too much of a focus on the exotic side of the portfolio, which is the satellite side of the portfolio. And we've forgotten 80% of what we have to do is basic dal chawal investing. I mean, and I run thematic funds, I run exotic funds, I run international funds. I run an IPO fund, but I'd still go out and tell you this is all thematic. I think the core of your portfolio has to be very simple. And that core is important. So I think in terms of core ideas, one idea I hope to see continue, and I've been a broken record on this, is the whole hybrid fund category, the whole asset allocation. And I know you guys have covered this extensively. It's not just about a couple of big bang NFOs, but in a period where you're going to see equity market volatility, fixed income market volatility, I don't think there's a better category. And I really believe the BAF category can be the size of the entire equity category today. That's its potential. So I hope to see that grow. I hope to see debt index funds grow. It's a 55,000 crore category today. It was 0 2 years ago. And I'm very optimistic that ultimately the Indian investor is also a fixed income investor. And in fact, if you see the monthly data, half the flow in fixed income in index funds, it's not bifurcated, but actually comes to fixed income. So I hope to see that continue to acquire some momentum next year.
Right.
I think we have to come back to the basic categories. I mean, it's all nice to talk thematic and X, Y, and Z, but how much of the consumer's portfolio is this going to occupy? I think we need to spend time on the things that solve the meat of the problem.
Right. Right. Sure. I also, wanted to talk to you since you spoke about BAF, as can be one of the core categories for investors. How should investors go about looking at BAFs, as a strategy probably for next year? I mean, because different BAFs are also, have kind of different, are kind of differentiated in a sense.
Sure.
So any word of advice on that?
I think 2 words of advice on BAF, or 3. One is that the great thing is people have recognized that there are different BAFs with different strategies.
Right.
You have to understand the strategy your BAF is using. And I think they broadly break into value and counter-cyclical ones, pro-cyclical ones like the ones we run, and some that are in the middle. I would say if you're building a BAF portfolio, adopt a portfolio with complementary strategies. So have a pro-cyclical one, a counter-cyclical one. That way you sort of have 2 different approaches.
Sure.
Secondly, whatever BAF you choose, make sure you have seen it through market cycles. BAF is one category where I think track record is extremely important. You have to have seen how that BAF is managed, equity, fixed income, market timing through a few cycles. That's including a down cycle. I think that is extremely important. And third, from an allocation point of view, I really believe BAF is the potato of your portfolio. Financial advisor told me this. You can use it as you want. So
Right.
I use BAF as the core and supplemented it with international and mid and small cap funds for that diversification and alpha. You can use BAF as the core and anchor and build things around it. A lot of people say BAF doesn't fulfill all my needs. Hopefully it fulfills a reasonable part and then you can supplement around it. You don't only have to invest in BAF, right? You can use BAF plus.
Right. Sure. And also, do you think the NFO run will continue? We saw, some NFOs getting these blockbuster inflows in 2021. Do you think, I mean, of course, industry is also now focusing a lot more on passives. You all were among the first, I think the first to start on debt passives. But on the overall, as a industry, how do you see that more NFOs, more passive products? How do you see that in the coming year?
More NFOs on the active side is hard to say. I mean, I think that's really an individual AMC's choice. I just think that whether it's active or passive, investors should buy these products for the right reasons. So that they have a good experience. The outcome is never in getting more investors or raising large amounts of money, which is why when these big things on collections, etc., are done, I always say the outcome is not there. The outcome is bringing more investors who stay in the industry. That's all that matters. As far as passives, I think their growth is natural, par for the course. It will happen. Although I will say passive NFOs don't raise the kind of money that active NFOs do, despite all the media that they get. So I think more product is good for the industry. It should be quality products. It should be products that solve an investor's problem, whether it's active, passive, smart beta, dumb beta, whatever you want to call it. Launch products that solve consumers' problems, and I hope consumers buy them for the right reasons.
Right. Great. Thanks a lot, Radhika, for joining us today and sharing your insights of what you thought 2021 was all about and your expectations from the coming year. And wish you a happy new year. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Happy New Year.